Pong Stars, and welcome to this Halloween episode of the Rathole. I'm your spooky host, Commissioner Night's Watch Ranger, Zack Eichten. Now, we are halfway through the regular season, so let's hop right into Week 7 recaps. In Game 1, we had the Gluten Freaks up against Worse Than Trash, who did not live up to their name in Week 7, getting a 146.08 point win over the Gluten Freaks, who got 133.08. Now, it is Tony's team, so of course there's a little bit of controversy with Rostergate, and that was resolved. Check the Pong Stars Twitter for Commissioner Eichten's press release on the matter. Now, the Gluten Freaks had a pretty good week, in part due to now traded player Tyler Lockett, who scored the most points from the wide receiver category so far this year in 1 week with 45.5 points. Additionally, DeAndre Hopkins, Dean, had a great week again, just superb. The point of concern for this team really is two specific people, both named Josh. Josh Allen and Josh Jacobs both underperformed, which could have made up that 13-point difference and got the win for this team had they played to expectations. Definitely got to fix that moving forward. And these two Joshes might be on that fraud list instead of our Josh. Now let's talk about Worse Than Trash. They exploded for a ton of points, posting their highest points for on the season so far, as well as their highest points of all time in a single week, this week in Game 7. These two teams are now 2-2, setting up a potential rivalry moving forward. Zack is actually one of two opponents where Tony averages over 115 points in each game. The other team being Sam, who he just plays lights out against, averaging 142 points for. Bright spot for this team, Justin Herbert. Looks like Worse Than Trash may have finally found their franchise quarterback with his electric rookie. 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown in Week 7, combined for 38.48 points. The rest of the team all hit or exceeded their projections as well, bringing this team to their 4th victory on the season, which is now one more win than Tony had in all of regular season last year. Let's move on to game number 2, where we had the Rock Plopstas versus the Google team names. Now, these two former roommates blasted off against each other, and John had his bounce back week after a dismal loss in Week 6. The Rock Plopstas take the win, 134.42 to 112.5. Rogers, who, now let me do a discount double check here, is off the roster now after a big trade with the Spring Chickens, but he had a great game with 27 points. Antonio Gibson, fantastic back out of Washington football team, had 18, and Darren Waller continues to astound, being the number 3 tight end, catching 6 out of 9 receptions and a touchdown in Week 7. All fantastic. But the real winner here is Devontae Adams, who napped 38.1 points on 196 yards and 2 touchdowns in Week 7. The man is just a target machine with 16 targets in Week 7. Definitely a good win for the Plopstas. Now, the names didn't have a bad week either. In fact, they just didn't have a week that wasn't good enough for a win. They would have beat 4 other teams this week, and it's just really bad scheduling luck there. Kyler Murray is giving Russell Wilson a run for his money on top quarterback to have this year, putting up 37.1 points. The rest of this team just sort of an week. Lockett ate up all the points in Seattle, so DK Metcalf didn't get to do much except for run and catch up to Buda Baker, who I'm sure we all saw. Fuller and Cooper just held the normal scores. It was just a week. Sam, I'm sure you and the Google team names will get them next time. In game number 3, we had the Gruesome Grinders versus Not Trading Lamar. Josh did have the highest score in Week 7 after Rostergate controversy, with 151.52 points over the Grinders' 114.3. This came despite a pretty low score from replacement quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and low score from starter Ezekiel Elliott. But not to worry, James Robinson came through with the highest running back score of the week with 29.7. A.J. Brown continues to improve since he came back from his injury with 24.3 points. And Todd Gurley, no knees, Todd Gurley continues to score touchdowns, sometimes even to the detriment of his actual real-life team. Good one, Todd. But you're finally off the fraud list, Josh, and I'm sorry for doubting you. The Grinders had a meh week. It's really frustrating when the quarterback gets pulled, especially your fantastic quarterback with Patrick Mahomes. But at least it was because of how big they were winning versus he was doing terrible. 12 points is just a tough score from the top quarterback in the league. And let's talk about frustrating players on this squad. Chase Claypool, Week 5 scores almost 40 points. Week 6, he scores 16 points. And then Week 7, in the lineup, 1 catch for -2 yards and a .03 score. Man, that's just tough to see. But Drew is now at 2-5. He enters a stretch where pretty much every game from here on out is a must-win for him to still make the playoffs. let's talk about game number 4, where we had Glass Bones and Paper Skin up against the Dog Sniffers. Glass Bones scored 61.52 points to the Dog Sniffers 111.1. Now, I think I know why Glass Bones didn't win this game. They just got scared. The Sniffers score looks like a bunch of tiny little spears, and they couldn't score any more points after that. Well, it's either that or the negative points from Scam Newton at negative 0.18. Singletary doing a Singletary game at 5.7. George Kittle held to only 8, and Jonnu Smith held to 1.4. Even Younghoe Koo only had 2 points. It just wasn't a great week for the Glass Bones and Paper Skin squad. High scoring player Jamal Williams, who did benefit from Aaron Jones being held out against Houston. Potential to happen again in going into week 8 here, but who knows if Jones is healthy enough now. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Definitely not a great week, but probably something unlikely to repeat that poorly again. Now, the Dog Sniffers get into 4-3 win with Deshaun Watson leading the pack. Of course, we expected Thomas to win. He's really emerging, though, as Watson being a trusted quarterback now that he has a new head coach. But the most exciting player this week was Tyler Boyd, who scored 22.24 points after making a 16-yard pass, as well as getting 101 yards and a touchdown in the passing game. He's starting to click with rookie quarterback Joe Burrow. Thomas was without Mark Andrews, and Travis Kelce was held to 4.6. So these two tight end heavy teams really couldn't rely on tight ends this week, but both will look to those tight end players in the weeks to come. Finally, in the Pong Stars game of the week, we had the Big Man Bowl, where both, we had Noel Tigan, and he ran away with it and got lucky at the same time. So let's dive into this game. Noel set a perfect lineup for his team this week. Great managing, Noel. That perfect lineup, however, was only 108.8 points. Against all teams, he would have only beat 2 of them this week. Luckily, he was facing one of them in the Spring Chickens, who scored a sub-60-point week in a second time in a row at 57.92. Noel moves to 3-4 on the year. Now, that was Noel's lowest score in the year so far, one unlikely to repeat, as Joe Mixon, Michael Thomas, and Christian McCaffrey come back from injuries in the next week or 2. Matt Stafford filled in fine for Dak Prescott's injury. He got 18.4 points. Kamara got 18.8. Ridley got 7. Giovanni Bernard got 18. It was a fine week. It's fine. It'll go down in the books as a win, and that's really all that matters in this league. The Spring Chickens, on the other hand, let's get this one over with. Oof is the only way to describe these past 2 weeks. 57.92. Not enough for a win, Brennan. Well, unless you were up against your score from week 6, and then you would have got a win this week. But week 7, Russell Wilson scored just over half of the points for this team with 29.92 points. Jerick McKinnon, CeeDee Lamb, and Odell Beckham combined for 0 points. The only person on this team that scored double digits beside Wilson, Jared Cook at 10.7. Honestly, I just want to move on because it's just tough to see. It's tough to see a team that scored 192 points get brought this low. Noel wins the Big Man Trophy, and Brennan moves to 2-5. Now, let's head on over to the fun fact of the week. This week's fun fact of the week is looking at the records of each team. It'll actually be a combination fun fact with the team's record if they were to play each team each week as well as their schedule. So let's get into it. There are 2 teams that have played their worst possible record so far. That is Brennan and the Spring Chickens, as well as Drew and the Gruesome Grinders. Both of them at 2-5. They are both easily playing their toughest schedule this year. The best possible record, only one team is playing their best possible record so far, and that is Tony Townsend and Worse Than Trash at a 4-3 record. So just to put some perspective on how important scheduling really is, if Drew and Tony were to switch schedules, Tony would be 0-7 and Drew would be 6-1. So that's just a big yikes from me on that. So let's take a look here and see where you line up in this graphic. Now let's look at where folks are if they face all 9 other teams each week. In the lead, we have the Google team name at 43-20. This is a 5-game lead over the tie for second, which is the Gruesome Grinders and the Gluten Freaks, both if they played each team each week, 38-25. this just really highlights how terrible the luck has been for the GGs this year. Coming in at fourth is another team with bad schedule luck, Randy's Donuts at 37-26. Then the Rock Plopstas at 36-27. Bit of a jump down to the Dog Sniffers at 32-31. And then we get into the negative schedules with Not Trading Lamar and the Spring Chickens both at 29-34. Then a massive jump down to Worse Than Trash at 22-41, again, highlighting that easy schedule for Tony's squad. And then an even more massive jump down to Glass Bones and Paper Skin at 11-52, which is just tough to see. This is just showing the strength of schedules for some of these teams has been really tough and really easy for a few of them. Now, we did have a few trade alerts this week, so let's head on over to Trade Talks. All right, folks, welcome to this episode of Trade Talks with myself and Drew Mahowald, owner of the Gruesome Grinders. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Of course, I would never miss a Trade Talks.
It's really hard because I do hound people for Trade Talks when it happens usually. So that's
true.
It's been a while though, actually. This is our first trade of the week. It's actually our first trade in a week. This is the longest period of time that we have gone without a trade since September. This was our 7 days. It's actually one of the longest times in between trades so far, with the next longest being a 9-day period between September 12th and September 21st. But after that, it's been like one every 2 to 5 days. So it's been a while since we've had this segment. So I'm just excited to be back.
Yeah, the activity in this league is pretty fun. So, but of course, we had to break the drought, right?
Well, of course. And all right, so let's talk about it. The trade that we got going here, I'm pretty excited about. It is you trading me Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, and Brennan's first round draft pick in 2021 for my 2021 third and sixth round pick, as well as Kenyon Drake and Tyler Lockett. Now, this is coming right off the heels of another massive week from Tyler Lockett. Kenyon Drake heading to the IR most likely. Austin Eckler still on the IR. And Cooper Kupp just sort of being a consistent wide receiver 3 flex player so far this year. So that's sort of the context coming into this. So, Drew, how did we get to this point? How did we make this trade work?
This has been in the works for a long time. I think it was after the very first game of the year, I kind of made it known that I wanted to trade Eckler. And the reason I was thinking that was I realized probably throughout the year he wouldn't be getting the receptions that he did last year, which made him so valuable. Philip Rivers checking it down. So I kind of was like, well, he's not going to be as productive as last year. And then, of course, he got hurt, and that kind of threw a wrench in any trade talks that trade discussions that me and Zack had, and, of course, others throughout the league. And there was, throughout the stretch of the last couple of weeks, there has been some discussions with other league owners, but nothing really kind of caught my attention to the extent that, the discussions I had with Zack, which included Lockett. Obviously, in hindsight, wish I would have completed something prior to Lockett's 45-point week, but it became a lot easier for both of us, I think, to get something worked out when Drake also got hurt. And I also had Edmonds, which was part of the reason I wanted him, was for that handcuff dynamic there. So it kind of made everything easier for both of us with both running backs, Eckler and Drake, hurt to kind of work something out.
Yeah, so I'm coming from my side. I've been interested in Eckler. I was interested before the draft. He was one of my guys that, I really like on the team. I think he's just a hard worker, and,
gritty.
I know he's working hard to get back out on the field as soon as he's able to. But, I traded for Kenyon Drake. I traded away Chris Carson, which when I did that, it was because I knew Chris Carson has never finished a season unhurt. And surprise, surprise, going now into week 9, Chris Carson is injured again. Potentially missing again another week. He was able to get back week 5 or 6 or whatever that was. But Kenyon Drake going down. He's been on the block for a while for me now, just not really putting up those numbers that I was expecting like he did at the end of last season. But I think the biggest piece of the puzzle that was missing for me is, going into this season, and once I got Julio, I knew I wanted to trade Lockett for a first round pick. Lockett wasn't going to be a keeper. Julio Jones is going to play at least one more season. DeAndre Hopkins is on my team. He's not going anywhere. You guys can stop asking. He is not leaving this squad. It's not going to happen. And then, Josh Jacobs is great, and he's going to be a lifelong freak. But, that solid running back 2 position, Drake just wasn't cutting it. So I've wanted Eckler over here for a while. Glad we were finally able to, increase that value after that 45.5 week 7 in the Freaks loss against Worse Than Trash. Outrageous. But yeah, I'm glad we were able to get that number 1 pick worked out.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago at like 12:30 in the morning, I almost made just a huge mistake and traded garbage, and I finally realized I was just tired and angry that we had lost to the Seahawks, the Vikings.
Yeah, that was very close. I don't remember exactly what the deal was, but it would have been. I wasn't getting Lockett if I remember correctly.
You were going to end up with Lockett and Corey Davis.
Oh, it was okay,
and
something
then
like that.
I was going to get like Austin Eckler and Devontae Parker or something.
Yeah.
Just like Parker's fine.
He's better. Probably, yeah. Well, Corey Davis and Parker, but yeah, Cooper Kupp has been slightly underwhelming. Besides, I think week 3 he had a good game. But it's been, so I'm kind of in on the Cardinals offense as a whole. And so that's, I think Sam is set for the future quite a bit with Kyler Murray there. Yeah. And I think having the running back, whether it's Edmonds or whether it's Drake, I think bodes well in the long term. So having one of them now, problem, of course, is going to be come the draft next year. I'm probably not keeping Edmonds, so or Drake or whoever ends up being the backup. So right. I will be doing what I can to keep, try to get both of them next year. But I will say this does not go through if I don't have 2 first-round picks to deal with. So I still have one in the back pocket, and if I didn't have another one, I wouldn't be sending you one in this trade.
Exactly. So I was happy when you ended up with that other first-round pick, just because I knew that was going to be definitely part of it. You still have Noel's first-round pick. You don't have your own. I know I made a point to make sure it was Brendan's first-round pick. I think it's going to be a little further than Noel's. So
at this, after 2 weeks of 50-something points for Swan, kind of drops him quite a bit, and it's suddenly his team is looking very beatable. But
his team is very beatable. We shouldn't get into this. We'll let the armchair experts discuss this one. But
true.
I don't know.
So at this point, I have 3 third-round picks and 3 sixth-round picks now. So
correct.
I'm hoping what I'm going to try and do before the draft, hopefully, is kind of group those together for maybe those teams that are short on picks and maybe move up from maybe, package together 2 thirds and move up or vice versa, something like that. But because I think I'm going to be set now, we're through about the 8th round of the draft. I'll be done picking my team. So
that's perfect for you. That's really great. I'm glad everybody knows how much I get excited about those picks. I'm glad I finally have my second first-round pick back from somewhere. It's good to have it back. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean,
also, my keepers are looking more and more set each day now.
It's going to be fun in the draft trying to follow, because how a sleeper has it where it's like, here are all of the, Zack Eichten draft slots, but it's going to be like 5 different teams down the column there trying to figure out who's picking where.
No, it's been good though. It's been great trading. I'm just very glad after 7 weeks I finally have Austin Eckler on my team.
It took a long time. It really what the tipping point was Drake's injury. It's like, okay, well, they're about equal value now because they're both going to be out for about the same number of weeks.
Probably.
The rest of the way here.
I mean, both probably won't be back until at least week 11.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I still have Edmonds to fill in anyway. So
yeah, Edmonds has really been a thorn in my side all year.
Because he's better than Drake.
He is better than he is. You can have him. You can have Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I'm just saying if they keep playing Drake, of course he's going to be the better fantasy back, but Edmonds is the better player.
It's been frustrating. But, all right. Thanks for a great trade talk. Catch y'all on the flip, and we'll see you later.
All right. We're back here with another edition of Trade Talks here with John Stevens and Brennan Swan. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Pretty good. Good to see you, sir. Always a pleasure.
It's always good to see that beautiful portrait behind you, Brennan.
Yeah, special occasions. Right? Got to bring it out.
Well, this is, in fact, a special occasion. We're going to be talking about your guys' trade. A couple of big names getting moved here. The Russell Wilson, coming from Brennan's team, was sent over to John Stevens in exchange for Kenny Golladay, Aaron Rodgers, and a 2021 second-round pick. So talk to me about how this trade started. Who approached who in this situation?
Yeah, I can grab it. I've been pestering Brennan for Russell Wilson for a while now. He's been deflecting me for quite some time, and this week I just hit him up because I noticed he needed a wide receiver because OBJ just went on IR, season-ending IR, so I noticed he had a need there. And I basically just told him, I was like, hey, man, do you want the Russell Wilson offer first? Or because I knew like he wasn't super – in the past, he wasn't super open to trading Russell Wilson, and he said, go ahead and hit me with it. So I hit him with the offer.
Now, Russell Wilson, I'm not positive exactly to your league scoring, but in most leagues, he's the #1 fantasy player based on averages per game. So you were giving up a big piece here, Brennan. You obviously wanted to get a good value in return. Was this final offer the first offer that came to you, or did it have to be adjusted a little bit until you were satisfied?
Oh, no.
Brennan,
we're losing you. You're cutting out big
Robbie
time.
Anderson.
You're cutting out big time. You might have to restart.
Shit.
Here,
Yeah.
you might be good now. Try it again. Intermission.
Can't even hear you right now. Yeah. Damn it.
Don't cut this, Zack. When you're editing this, don't cut it. Leave it in.
In a full tour here of Brennan's place.
Great talk. Say, Mom. Is this better?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, boys.
Yeah, maybe just keep walking around while you're giving these answers.
All right. Let me know if we got any problems.
No, you're good now.
All right. Well, as I was saying, Zach, John came to me with some pretty good offers. He came with me with a Robbie Anderson type deal for a couple picks. Honestly, I was eyeing up Golladay a little bit. I said, hey, here's a guy who could potentially be a keeper for me. As John mentioned, I've had some issues with the wide receiver position this year with some injuries. So, honestly, I countered back with a Golladay offer, and we settled on the offer that, we finished up with. So, honestly, I felt like John was pretty cooperative throughout this entire process. So
It was a pretty friendly exchange, not too hostile then.
yeah,
Not too bad.
personally, I was probably getting a little greedy. I felt like, if I'm going to give up Russ, who's been my best player and one of the best quarterbacks, obviously, I want to try to get something pretty good. And I still think John it did give me that. I feel like some people in the league will say I could have gotten more, but honestly, it was getting to the point where Russ was the only guy doing stuff for me, and I needed to make moves at other positions. So, when it comes down to it, I think I did what was the right thing for my team. So
Yeah, and I think the right thing for my team would be if you traded me Dalvin. So just keep me updated there.
Oh, Zach, I'm telling you, can't do it unless you trade me.
I tried to, Zack. I tried to.
Trade me Dean. That's all I'm saying. Trade me Dean.
All right, we'll see.
All right.
Now, John.
Yeah.
Question for you. This was obviously a want trade for you. It was not a need trade to fill a position because you did have Aaron Rodgers. Now, you said you were eyeing up Russell for a while. What kind of drew you to him other than the fact that, he's the top player? Is there anything else?
Yeah, well, as you know, Commissioner Eichten, I am currently sitting in a tie for first in our league, and I have now fully deemed this a championship or bust type of season. Even though we are a five keeper league, I really wanted to make sure that I had the best guys possible to win the championship this season. Um, I've had a lot of quarterbacks on my team this year already. I started with Cam Newton. He's looking more like Scam Newton, as you like to say, and had Ben
Oh, love to say
Roethlisberger for
that.
a week when Scam Newton was on bye, and then I acquired Rodgers, and now we're on to Wilson. But I just felt like, like you mentioned at the top, Russell Wilson being the top scorer overall so far. I think he's averaging pretty close to 30 points per game, and his floor is basically 20 points. And I just felt like Aaron Rodgers. I also already had Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, which I didn't love having three Packers. You know, I'm hoping to make it to the championship, and I would really hate for my season to end just because it was when like the Packers had a bad game. So I wanted to diversify a little bit more, and then obviously just trying to get the best. Russell Wilson being the best guy out there. I knew I'd have to overpay. Obviously, talking to Brennan in the past, he was pretty tough. Didn't want to give him up, but yeah, like you said, definitely a wants, not necessarily a need, but I think it's going to help me out in the short term here, and potentially could even be beneficial into the next few seasons. So
Yeah, and that's a great point. With the keeper league setup, I have to imagine Russell is going to be one of those players that you keep. Brennan, is anybody in this trade going to be in consideration for your keepers?
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, it would be quite a shame if I didn't get any keepers back, right? No, I think Galladay probably will be. He's still pretty young. He's a number one in Detroit. As long as Stafford sticks around, I mean, I think you've got some points there. For me, it was more about consistency. Zach, you've often called my team a boom or bust team, and I take offense to that, to be honest, at this point. Pretty frustrating. So I wanted a little bit more consistency. I think I'll keep Galladay around. Kenny G and I, we go way back. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much it factored into the trade and Brennan ultimately coming around to it, but I did mention to Brennan, Russell, and to everybody in the league, Russell Wilson will be on the trade block after this season. I was one of only three teams going into this year that did not keep a quarterback. I think the strategy of not keeping a quarterback, I'm really liking it so far. Obviously, I was able to work my way up to the top quarterback in the league without giving away any of my original five keepers. So I'm pretty confident that strategy is working well for me. So I did let Brennan know that, if he's just trying to avoid the punishment this year, but still wants Russ on his team long term, he'll definitely be back up on the block after this season's over. So, we'll see if that turns into anything. I definitely won't be dissatisfied if I end up keeping him on my team. But yeah, heads up to everyone in the league, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good note. All right, final question after the dust is kind of settled here on the trade. How are you guys feeling? Do you still feel good about what you got out of this deal?
Go ahead, Brennan.
sure, I guess I'll. Zach, I feel like, yeah, at this point, honestly, who knows? Galladay might tear his ACL this week. I mean, like, legitimately, if that happens, I'm going to get a lot of pushback from the league about my dumb trade. This isn't the first time, though, I'd potentially make a bad trade. I think right now I feel pretty good about it. Again, it's just what can I do to make my team better week by week, and let's see if I can crawl out of this 9 spot. I'd love to make the playoffs if possible. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm still liking the trade. Like Brennan mentioned, my original offer was to give him Robbie Anderson versus Kenny Galladay. So, a little sad to see Galladay go, but I think it's for the better. And I still have three really solid. I got Adams, Robinson, and Robbie Anderson as my kind of top three wide receivers at the moment. So I'm still really confident in those guys. It's not that I didn't need Galladay, but I was definitely, feeling okay with what I was going to be leaving myself with. And that's why I was ultimately good to go ahead with the trade that Brennan counter offered with. So looking forward to this week. Projected 130 points, so it should be a lot of fun. Hopefully Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders end up playing. If they don't, it's going to really suck. But, probably Sunday night, I'll probably be like, God, my team's the worst ever. It's just like that for fantasy, up and down every week. You never know, if you're actually the best team or not. So we'll see in a week. But right now it's feeling good.
Yeah, I can tell you I'm not the best team.
Are you the worst team though?
No.
Last
No.
2 weeks. Last 2
Yes.
weeks.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But not overall.
Yep.
I
Maybe
think
not
Lucas
overall,
might
but
have you beat there.
yeah, Lucas had tough luck with injuries, so
Yeah.
honestly hoping that he and I can rise above. So
Well, there's still 6 weeks left of the regular season, so plenty of time to crawl out of any hole you might be in.
oh yeah, got to keep digging.
I don't know if digging is how you get out of a hole.
Zach, I don't want to hear it. All right, don't want to hear it.
Hey, you do you. You do you.
All right, thanks, man.
All right. Well, thank you to John and Brennan for joining me on another completely normal edition of Trade Talks.
Yeah, thanks again, Commissioner Eichten. Looking a little better than usual today, gotta say.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Zach, there's just something about you, man. You just got this glow today. I don't know, it's just something I haven't seen in a while. So good to see.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's gonna fuel my day for sure.
Good.
All right. Now to get out of the bit a little bit. Zach said I'd get compensation for a Chipotle burrito worth double meat. So is that PayPal or Venmo or
I mean, he is the commissioner, so I think he'll be paying you that. But
okay. Should I just go and buy it and then just
yeah,
get
just
reimbursed
Venmo
for
request him.
Okay, just do that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hey guys, back with the Mahowald a minute here on the Rathole. Wanted to give a memo to the league, with all this trading going on and all the activity that we have, to not judge a trade by its cover. Of course, the popular saying that I use very often because I read a lot of books, not to judge a book by its cover, not to judge a trade by its cover either. And so, with all the moving parts going on in football, and I want to use the example of Zack and Noel from last year, being that this is a keeper league, we can keep players for extended periods of time. Noel had Michael Thomas last year, worked out really well. He actually won the league, and Thomas was the best wide receiver scorer. This year, Michael Thomas has 2 points, and Zack, is getting usage out of David Johnson. So these things can change quickly in a matter of just a season, where it can be Michael Thomas is the best to perhaps the worst points-wise receiver in the league. So it's one thing to keep in mind that, players can become worse, players can become better, players can be traded to different...
Welcome back. This week, we also had the armchair experts get together to discuss the playoff picture for the season at just over the halfway mark of regular season. So let's head on over to the armchair experts now. All right, folks, welcome to this week's episode of the Armchair Experts. It's been a while, boys. Thanks for joining me. This might be the first time we actually have all 4 of us here at the same time. So this is an exciting occurrence here.
It's historic, I might say.
Yeah. This week we are going to be talking about the playoff picture halfway through the season now. Week 7 just passed. We have 6 weeks left before we get to playoffs. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go based on the rankings going into week 8. That's the order we're going to go bottom up. And we're going to start with rank number 10, which is Glass Bones and Paper Skin, Lucas Lawrenson's team. This episode of Armchair Experts is sponsored by the Fantasy Football Hub. It's a great website if you guys want to just take a gander at that anytime you want. But they give playoff odds for each team, and we're going to start.
Thank you, Fantasy Football Hub.
Yes, thank you, Fantasy Football Hub.
Use code PONGSTARS for 0% off.
0% off.
It's free
website. But Glass Bones and Paper Skin is coming into this week based on the Fantasy Football Hub's predictions, a less than 0.1% chance of making playoffs based off of this season so far. The way they do that, they calculate based on history of team scores. So if Lucas starts overperforming, that less than 0.1% could bump up beyond that. But for this calculation, it is a less than 0.1% chance of making playoffs. So I guess let's hop into this team. Do you guys think Lucas is going to be able to make playoffs this year?
No.
Yeah, I think it's tough. Obviously, Lucas has been one of the teams really been hit hard by the injury bug. Obviously with Saquon going down, that's just tough for anybody to really get around that. Other running backs that just aren't turning out well. Devin Singletary hasn't been performing well. It's a tough season over there at Glass Bones and Paper Skin. You guys have any expert analysis on this squad?
I have none. I have none in the sense that I think what needs to be said has been said. Injuries, and in a way, some bad luck too. It's all kind of combined. It just hasn't been. It's been a snowball effect, if you will, for Mr. Lawrenson.
Yeah, I'm gonna give some advice on what team owner Drew Mahowald gave me. Just draft players that don't get injured.
Yeah, of course. That's always the best strategy. Lucas is averaging about 92.58 points through 7 weeks, which is the lowest in the league. His next 6 matchups are Drew, then John, then Brennan, then Zack, then Sam, then Noel, which I gotta say is a pretty tough end of season schedule, regardless of if Lucas was playing well. So that's definitely going to be a difficult last 6 games for Lucas. I know he's just trying to avoid the punishment round at this point, is what he's told me. But let's then talk about team number 9. Team number 9, of course, is this week worse than trash, despite a big win in week 7, still coming in at the number 9 rank. John, you want to dive into this analysis for us?
Sure.
Oh, wait. No, I lied. I forgot. Fantasy Football Hub giving worse than trash a 30.78% chance of making playoffs with his...
Not the second worst either. Third worst, right?
Yeah, third worst right now.
So I think Tony has obviously overperformed this year. And he's taken advantage of a very weak schedule. Unfortunately for Tony, his final 6 opponents are, in order, Sam, Thomas, Noel, Josh, Drew, and John. So I think he might win 1 game out of those 6. And I think he's going to fall from grace pretty quickly, unfortunately for Tony. He was kind of planning on rebuilding this year anyway. So I think getting some wins and hopefully solidifying himself the top or one of the top 2 seeds in the losers bracket will help him to avoid the punishment. But yeah, the depth at running back is just not there, and the team is just, it's just not great. It's gotten better, and hopefully it'll be good next year, but I don't see it this year.
Yeah. So let's then move on to the person who is in number 8th position. And it is a bit of a surprise, and it is the Spring Chickens. The Spring Chickens came into this season ranked 5th. They hopped up to 2nd for a 2-week stint from weeks 5 to 6, and a precipitous drop down to spot number 8 after the last 2 sub 60 point performances. According to the Fantasy Football Hub, the Spring Chickens have an 11.2% chance of making playoffs at this point in the season with their 2-5 record. Drew, let's hop over to you for this expert analysis.
Yeah, Brendan's team has kind of quickly fallen apart because some of it is injuries. You have, obviously Odell Beckham, you have Chris Carson, and then you kind of have Mike Evans, who has really underperformed with Tom Brady just refusing to throw deep most of the time. So now CeeDee Lamb doesn't have Dak or Andy Dalton throwing to him. So there's a lot of things going wrong, and really the one thing going right is the quarterback position for Brendan, which you can't rely on to carry the whole team probably.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation for Brennan here. Obviously, he keeps saying things like, "Boss, I'm not sure if I'm able to be a good PT student and a good fantasy football owner at the same time." But like Brennan, you just got to set your lineup better. But he's had a tough couple weeks with those starters. Over the next 6 weeks, he has an okay schedule. He plays Thomas in week 8, followed by Josh, then Lucas again in week 10, then Sam, then Zack, then Drew. A couple of those very winnable games. We've seen Brennan go for 192. And then he's barely combined for that over the next 3 weeks. So barely. He's at like 207 versus 192. So tough couple weeks for Swan, but definitely has the potential to come back if those players get healthy. Let's then go over to the number 7 ranked team coming into this week. And of course, that is the Dog Sniffers. Now, the Dog Sniffers do have a 68.03% chance of making playoffs based off their record. So, Noel, we'll pop over to you for this expert analysis.
So Thomas's team, I think it's performed better than we all expected. He's 4-3, which is pretty good. I mean, over 50% halfway through the season. But he's only got the 6th most points scored, and so he's like right on that edge of performing well enough to make the playoffs. I think he's got some good talent at receiver with Joe Burrow. Tyler Boyd has really come out as a fantastic receiver. He got 22 last week. But I don't know if he has the strength to make it into the playoffs. His matchup this week is, what does he got? He's got Swan, and he's projected less than Swan right now. I don't know if their lineup set or not, but as you're talking about, Swan has the potential to score plenty of points. So that one is up in the air if he can win. And then he's got Tony the week after. And then he's got Josh, Drew. Sorry, it's taking so long. I have to do this on my phone. John.
Just say it.
Yeah, John and Sam.
John and Sam. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, he also has only the third lowest points against this season. So he's played a pretty easy schedule, and I think, I'm personally very skeptical of Thomas's running back situation. I think Rojo is fraudulent. I don't know. I don't love him. James Conner's doing really well, much better than I thought he was going to do this year, but still not like a ridiculously good RB1. So I don't know. I don't love Thomas's chances.
I think Thomas is going to make the playoffs by default of having a 4-3 record. I think the 4-3 record is going to push him in, and he's got 2 really winnable games the next 2 weeks here. So with Brennan and I think Tony back to back. So unfortunately for someone like me, I think Thomas gets in.
But will 6 and 7 be enough to make it in? Because wouldn't that leave him 6 and 7 if he didn't win the other games?
Correct. Yes, but looking at the schedule, looking at the standings, that's essentially asking myself or Brennan. Well, I guess that would also mean Noel winning at least 3 more, or myself and Brennan, or Brennan winning 4 more. And that seems like kind of a lot down the stretch, but
that's true.
I went undefeated
a lot, but he's
week 5 last year.
What?
I said I went undefeated after week 5 last year.
Sick brag, bro.
Anyways, let's move on then to the number 6 ranked team. I will say, number 6 rank, I think is artificially lowered by a few meddling owners ranking poorly, including himself. And it is Randy's Donuts coming in at the 6th rank here. So let's hop over to Noel for the expert analysis. Randy's Donuts has a 79.35% chance of making playoffs despite a slow start to the season here.
Yeah, as you said, I artificially ranked myself low because last year we started the season up and down, and I was getting sick of ranking myself first, thinking I had the best team, but I wasn't performing that way. And so coming into this year, changing my team name, putting myself first because I thought I had the best keepers, it wasn't working out for me. And so going back to Randy's Donuts and ranking myself 10th, we're hoping to get that, as John put, a good juju going my way again. And so hopefully getting McCaffrey back either Thursday or next week, and Mike Tom at some point relatively soon. Hopefully, we can make that playoff run.
Yeah, I think that you're, in my opinion, pretty much locked up for playoffs, despite starting off. What are you, 3-4 now?
4.
Because you have, I think, one of the easiest schedules coming up out of everybody. I mean,
Yeah, I get Tony.
to be fair, everybody has very tough opponents because we have a very pretty high-paced league this year. Somehow, everybody's.
8 of us are over 100 or over 800 points, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you have Zack on bye week hell in week 8. You should be an easy win for you. Then you face off against Sam, who is somehow in first place. Then you have Tony, then John and Josh, which are 2 tougher opponents than Lucas. So you're likely to get at least 3 wins, probably more. Once you get your
I think Noel's trying to downplay himself to be the the team no one's talking about going into the playoffs.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'm not here for it. Noel does have a good team. I'll be on the record saying that, and I'm not going to let him slide into that underdog role. I think Noel is still one of the heavy favorites to win the title.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm an underdog. I'm just saying
I think you're trying to downplay yourself, Noel.
No, I'm doing.
Noel's trying to get that buzz around his comeback season.
Yep.
Really,
he wants the headlines. He's chasing headlines.
Absolutely
not. No, I'm literally just trying to get do the same as last year. Just not try and do too much. I'm just trying to get that playoff spot.
Thank God the 1 and 2 seeds get a bye, because imagine if the 1 seed had to play Noel in the first round of the playoffs. That would just
ridiculous.
Be unfair.
Yeah, imagine
you're the 1 seed, aren't you? All right, let's move on. Let's get out of here. All right, let's move on.
Get out of the below average.
Noel will be in the playoffs.
Right. Yes, he will.
Will make the playoff. All right, we're moving on to number 5th ranked team. And that is the Gruesome Grinders, Drew Hold's team. The Fantasy Football Hub has the Gruesome Grinders at a 37.5% chance of making playoffs, heavily due to that underperforming record. Let's talk about them now. Drew has an excellent team. Just really, really good. Definitely made better now by the fact that he has a real wide receiver too, instead of Cooper Kupp in there, with that big trade earlier. Honestly, the biggest problem with Drew's team is just that every other team likes to just play lights out against him. Drew has the highest average points against, with 134.58 average points against, despite having the, I believe, 4th best points for in the leagues as of right now. So, man, this is a good team. This is a real good team. And a very winnable schedule coming up for Drew as well.
I think Drew's team is really solid, and I agree. I think Drew is going to be right on that borderline between making it, not making it, because of his record coming into this week.
Yep.
The one thing I'm kind of concerned about for Drew's team is the running back situation, just because he has so many handcuffs. Once Chubb returns, Hunt isn't going to be as big of a factor. Mm-hmm. Montgomery's been underperforming, so I kind of wonder if the running back play, once that starts to slow down, if he's going to be able to continue his high scoring weeks despite, still losing. So that's the one concern I have, but I still think Drew's going to be right there at the end with a chance in the last week to sneak into that last spot, probably.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. I think Drew is going to be on that cusp. I think it's going to come down to tiebreakers, but he's got a very winnable schedule coming up. He faces off against Lucas in week 8. Then he faces Zack in week 9, hoping that Tyler Lockett comes to play that week. John in week 10, then Thomas week 11, Tony, and then Brennan. For sure, 3 of those very winnable matchups.
That week 11 matchup against Thomas is shaping up to be a pretty important one for both of our playoff likelihood. Because looks like both of us have a decent chance to be on that bubble for the 6th spot. So I'm already nervous for that one.
Yeah, I would be nervous for that one if I was you as well. But yeah, I mean, 37% chance of making playoffs is you're definitely not out of it. It's not less than 0.01%. So that is good to know for you moving on. But speaking of moving on, let's do it. And we're going to talk here about, and it is the number 4th ranked team this week. A big bump up from 2 weeks ago, maintaining a spot from last week, and it is Josh and not trading Lamar. Man, I got to be honest, Josh was on my fraud list for a while, but after a few big weeks, he's off it now. But we'll toss it over to John for this expert analysis.
Yeah, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the pick'em, I think Josh's team is going to start performing really well. It already has been the last 2 weeks, like you just mentioned, Zach. Getting AJ Brown back. AJ Brown has been an absolute stud so far. He's been super consistently putting up double-digit points, and really still hasn't had that like big breakthrough week. So I feel like one of those is coming for him. And then his running back play is really solid. Like obviously Zeke struggled a little bit, but he's still going to be just a workhorse for that team. Todd Gurley, I think, has outperformed pretty much everyone's expectations this year down in Atlanta. He certainly has outperformed mine. And then he's also got James Robinson, who's been arguably the best rookie this season fantasy-wise. So Josh's team really solid in the running back position, really good wide receivers. And then he's got Lamar Jackson, who, I don't know, it just feels like he's going to start showing up a little more than he has been so far this season. So I definitely see a playoff berth coming for Josh's team, especially because he was able to take advantage of the weak schedule.
If his receivers,
Josh does have an 86.75% chance of making.
Okay, he's in the playoffs, whatever. But if he can like get some health for his receivers, like Godwin got hurt again.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the one thing that there's any concern about. It's that just the health of his players, because he's dealt with health. Like it's kind of a balancing act, right? Like he's got some pretty tough injuries at receiver, but he's also been pretty lucky in terms of the schedule and opponents that he's had. So he does have a solid setup for the playoffs.
Yeah. Josh is sort of the anti-Drew in that he's had a really very helpful schedule as opposed to a very harmful schedule, leading that 5-2. He plays John in week 8, followed by Brennan, Thomas, then Tony, Noel, and Zach. So kind of a tougher back half, especially those last 2 games. I know I made the prediction at the very beginning of the season that I felt that Josh and I would probably be battling for playoff spots in that week 13 matchup. So, one thing just before we go, Josh almost has 40% of his points from the running back position so far this year. So his running backs have been extremely solid, heavily due to James Robinson. Absolutely. Now let's move on then to the number 3 ranked team coming into this week. And that is the Googled team names. Now I will say it is just barely, the average score was 0.1 away from the 2nd ranked team. So almost interchangeable, but we are going with the Google team names here first. Drew, why don't you lead us off on this one?
So I think I'm going to be honest here, and I think we're all guilty.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The Google team names have a 99.5% chance of making playoffs.
All right, good. I was going to say, I think that we're all kind of guilty of sort of like Sam's, like giving into Sam's reputation a little bit fantasy-wise prior to this year, because his team is got some guys, got some dogs. Kyler Murray, of course, puts up 30-something every week, and his receiving core is lights out. So Will Fuller, DK Metcalf, those guys are putting up big numbers every week. Will Fuller's getting all kinds of targets, right? Now, Amari Cooper might drop off a bit with the quarterback problems in Dallas, and then he still has, like, T. Higgins has been emerging quite a bit, and Juju Smith-Schuster is still there as well. So he's got some names at receiver that are going to carry him the rest of the way here, and then Jonathan Taylor and Melvin Gordon is not the worst running back duo in the league. So that's quite the firepower that Sam's put together there. And I do think, we have all underestimated him again, just because of his lack of success prior to 2020.
Yeah, I'll highlight Sam's wide receiver position, putting up 37.38% of his total score. Definitely his strongest assets. Although Kyler Murray is putting up 22%, so not as good running back position, under 20% of his total score coming from that position, despite having more potential spots to gain points there. So that's definitely the weak point on this team. But with Philip Lindsay getting hurt again, potentially being out for a little bit longer, Melvin Gordon not getting suspended somehow, and Jonathan Taylor being, again, the product of having a good season off of injuries to other backs has been really good.
I think, too, one of the most impressive things about Sam's team so far is the scoring hasn't been like really up and down. Like he doesn't have like a big week pulling his average up. He's been really consistently like in that 115 to like 130 range, like pretty much every week it seems like. And if he's able to keep that consistency up, it's going to be really hard to beat him. I personally still think, I think his team's a little better than where he is placed right now. The running backs are a little bit more of a concern for me than you guys were saying. I think that Melvin Gordon's going to start losing some time to Philip Lindsay, at least more touches than he has been currently. So I'm a little concerned about Sam. I think he's obviously going to make the playoffs, 99.7% or whatever, but I do think he might slide a couple of positions down the stretch here.
Sam is one of 2 teams that has not had a point score under 100 in any given week. The other team being Knoll. So
also important to note, Sam has had very little injury problems.
He's benefited from injuries for sure. Absolutely. His next 6 opponents, he faces off against Tony in week 8, followed by Knoll, then Zack again, Brennan, Lucas, and Thomas. I think a lot of those games are very winnable for Sam. He's been very consistent so far this year. Highest points for in the league so far. And again, like John said, without one giant week. So very impressive, Sam. Let's move on to the number 2 ranked team then. And we'll toss it over to Knoll, and it is the Gluten Freaks. The Gluten Freaks have a 90.58% chance of making playoffs at this point.
I think Zack likes injured players almost as much as I do. He traded for a running back who's on IR, and he's got John Brown who's out. He's got Alan Lazard who's on IR. He's got Zach Ertz on IR. It was kind of weird that he traded for Eckler, especially after you tried to trade me Ertz. But Zach's got a good team. I think we've all talked about this before. With Josh Jacobs, that's a great running back to build around. And picking up Myles Gaskin this year, he's kind of been a diamond in the rough for them down there. Trading for Cooper Kupp. I don't know. I told Drew earlier I think he won that trade, but if Zack felt like he needed him, it kind of looks like he fits into his team. And you can't really complain when Zack has a 4-3 record with 875 points scored. He's got second most in the league, and so he knows what he's doing. But yeah, I think although Zack likes to call himself a fraud, I think he's got a good chance at the playoffs.
Yeah. So yeah, just to address that trade real quick, Tyler Lockett's a boomer bust, one running back or wide receiver 3, absolutely. So on my team, absolutely wide receiver 3. So get a first round pick out of that.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Tyler Lockett trade either. I think
you don't have to.
Questionable.
No, Cooper Kupp's a great player, and I'm excited to have.
That's all right.
Also, I've been trying to trade for Eckler for literally 7 weeks, so I'm glad that we finally got.
Hey, sometimes you trade for Eckler and you get Kamara. It just works out.
Wait.
Anyway, I can't wait to get Kamara. But
I think Zach, your team is I think it's basically kind of where I thought it was at the beginning of the season. It was like everywhere I looked, I was like, okay, solid. Nothing bad. Nothing that really ever pops out of the screen at me. But
yep.
I think you're obviously a team that's destined to make the playoffs. I'll be interested to see where you end up seeding wise. I think you genuinely have a chance at the 1 seed, and I think you could also be at the 6 seed. I could really see your season playing out pretty much anyway, but I think you're going to get in the playoffs regardless. So
yeah. So next 6 weeks, I got Knoll, which I'm not expecting a win there. But then I have Drew, Sam, Lucas, Brennan, and Josh. I for sure think at least 3 of those games are very winnable games, and 3 of them will be a struggle. So a 3-3 are that record should be able to. 7-6 team should make the playoffs this year. But Let's move on then to our final team, which is the number 1 ranked Rock Plapstas. And John's Rock Plapstas. They have a 96.32% chance of making playoffs. Looking real solid over there at the Rock Plapstas Football Club. Drew, will toss it to you to do this expert analysis.
Yeah, John's team, I think, is I think there's a clear number 1 best team in the league right now, and I think it's John. I think, even moving forward, if everybody's healthy right now, this includes Randy's Donuts, I'm taking John's squad. I think he's got supreme depth at both running back and receiver that clearly exceeds any other team in the league. And so he'll be very set for the playoffs. And there's so much star power. Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, and Nick Chubb at running back, and Gibson, who would be a solid RB2 on most teams. That's John's RB4. And that receiver, of course, you got Devonta Adams, who, when healthy, is probably the number 1 fantasy receiver in the league. Galladay, Robbie Anderson's been a stud, going down the line. Allen Robinson, that's probably his 4th receiver right now. Allen Robinson is a target machine when healthy. So much talent, so much production on John's team. He'll be set. And he's right now, if I were to pick a winner, a champion, it'd be John.
That's a bold statement. No, I love this team. John came to me at the beginning and said, I got the best team. And I was like, well, I don't know.
No, he's got the best team.
Definitely after injuries, and definitely where we are right now.
Tell you what, there's a lot of good keepers on John's team. Like coming down, I'm thinking about to next August, there's a lot of keepers that are going to be available because of John.
Yes, absolutely. He has been hoarding players. But this is a championship run, and we'll see how it takes.
Yep.
I know right now John has 3 second-round picks next year, but no first-round picks. So a lot of those guys will be gone by the time it gets back around to him at this point. So
yeah, it is officially championship or bust season for the Rock Plopses.
The Rock Plops?
The Rock Plopses. No, and looking at the schedule up ahead, I have no doubt you'll make playoffs. You got Josh in week 8, which he's a tough opponent. But then you have Lucas, Drew, who just has terrible luck. I don't know if you drove into a mirror store and broke all the glass or something, but you've just been terrible this year.
I did not do that.
Then you got Noel week 11, but then you finish off your season with Thomas and Tony.
Yeah, somehow I get Noel both weeks when Christian McCaffrey is actually going to play. Sad.
That is sad. But you beat Noel 181 to 143. Easy claps. Easy win. What is that? A 38.48 victory margin there.
Blowout.
Easy. And a very balanced team. 31% of your points from the running back, 31% from the receivers. Excellent, and can't say anything bad about this squad. Thank you. Now let's go into the fun part. We're just gonna, blast off here and say what we think our seeding is gonna be. I'm very excited for this part of it. So I will go first and let you guys get your seeding in order. Coming in at the number 10 seed, I have Glass Bones and Paper Skin. Number 9 seed, the Spring Chickens. Number 8 seed, Worse Than Trash. And then based off a tiebreaker, the number 7 seed will be the Dog Sniffers.
Ooh.
Which means that the tiebreaker team that wins out and makes the playoffs in the number 6 spot is the Gruesome Grinders, followed by the number 5 seed, the Gluten Freaks, coming in at 8 and 5. The Rock Plopstas on a tiebreaker in the 4th spot. Randy's Donuts on the tiebreaker going up into that 3rd spot. The Google team names also tied at 9 and 4. All 3 of those teams will be in the 2nd seed, and then in the 1st seed at 10 and 4 or 10 and 3 rather will be Not Trading Lamar. They're not losing again. They're not losing again this year.
Wow.
Wow, not even next week to me.
I was going to say, how are they going to go 10 and 3 if they're 5 and 2?
Yeah, that they're going to lose one more is what you're saying.
Yeah, they lose one more. They lose one more.
To me this week.
I thought they were at. It doesn't matter. All right, John, we'll go to you.
All right. I also have Glass Bones Paper Skin at number 10. Sorry, Lucas. Better luck next year. I got Tony, worse than trash at number 9. Like I said, really tough schedule coming down the stretch. Obviously, he's made a lot of moves to, work towards next season. So I'm putting him in the 8 spot. Spring Chicken, or at the 9 spot. Spring Chickens in the 8 spot. And then, Zach, I agree with you. I think Dog Sniffers just miss out on the playoffs. And I think that the Gruesome Grinders sneak into that 6 spot. Gluten Freaks at the 5 spot. Again, middle of the pack in my opinion, but definitely good enough to make the playoffs. Randy's Donuts at number 4. I think, got a couple of tough matchups, but they're definitely going to win enough games to not only get into the playoffs, but get into one of the, middle tier seeds. Google team names in my 3 spot, not trading Lamar in the 2, and the Rock Plopstas at the 1.
No confidence in this team, guaranteed. All right.
Zero confidence.
Go to Drew.
Okay, so I think I agree with all of you guys about the number 10 team, Glass Bones, Paper Skin. Number 9, I have Tony and Worse Than Trash. I have the Spring Chickens at 8. I have the Gruesome Grinders at number 7. I just think now the Dog Sniffers have a couple winnable matchups there, and it's just a tough hill to climb to get 2 more wins than Thomas down the stretch here. So the 5 seed, I have Zack and the Gluten Freaks. I have Not Trading Lamar at number 4. Got Sam the Google team names at number 3. I have Randy's Donuts at number 2. I think Noel's about to go on a hot streak here, and I think he's going to have that tiebreaker with the most points scored to bump him up seeding wise. And then I got the Rock Plopstas at the top seed, potentially winning out the rest of the year.
Oh, bold. All right, Noel, over to you.
Yep. Glass Bones and Paper Skin at number 10. I think that one's obvious. Sorry, Lucas. Number 9, I actually got Worse Than Trash, as his team states. The only thing he's not worse than is Glass Bones and Paper Skin. Number 8, sorry, Swan, I got the Spring Chickens. It's just been a tough year for him. Not much more you can say. Number 7, I got the Dog Sniffers. Sorry, Thomas, you're not winning that tiebreaker for me. The Dog Sniffers. Number 6, I got the Gruesome Grinders. Drew, you're scoring enough points where you're going to win enough matchups, more than Thomas, to get in there. Soon, people aren't going to be averaging 135 against you.
That's so stupid. I don't even know what the next closest is, but it's just the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, before this week, I was like 10 less than Drew, and then Swan ruined my average.
I'm pretty sure week 1, like the highest projected team had like 130 something.
Yeah.
So you basically are at every single week a team has scored better than the highest projection.
Yeah.
That's so insane.
Yeah. Was that number 5 or 6? Where was that?
That was number 6.
That was number 6. All right. Number 5, Zach, I got you. The Gluten Freaks at number 5. Number 4, I got the Rock Lobsters. He is not winning out on my schedule. Number 3, I got Not Trading Lamar. Number 2, I got I got Randy's Donuts. And number 1, I got Google team names.
Sounds great. All right. Well, that is the playoff picture as it stands halfway through the season. There's still 6 games to go, a lot of time to play. I'm looking forward to every single week of it. So thanks for joining me on this week of the Armchair Experts, boys. We'll catch you soon.
See ya.
Thank you, Armchair Experts. Now that we have that expert analysis done, it is time for the rankings. always so calm after that beautiful music and those rankings. So let's get into the matchup previews then. In game number 1, we have the Gluten Freaks up against Randy's Donuts. Truth be told, I think this is going to be a little bit of a blowout. Randy's Donuts could be getting Mixon, McCaffrey, and Michael Thomas back. Just honestly a killer combo. It's McCaffrey may be it on Thursday, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Noel has Mike Davis still, and that's going to be a pretty tough game for the Freaks. Even a full-strength Freaks team would have trouble with this one. But this ain't a full-strength team. DeAndre Hopkins and David Johnson are on bye. Newly traded for player Austin Eckler, still injured. Alan Lazard, still injured. Really looks like it'll most likely be a very winnable game for the Donuts, but we'll have to see what the Freaks do. They do have the second highest points 4 through 7 weeks, so it really is anyone's guess, but my money's on the Donuts. In game 2, we have the Spring Chickens versus the Dog Sniffers. Thomas and his tight ends will be up against new quarterback and receiver Aaron Rodgers and Kenny Galladay for the Spring Chickens. Gotta say, I'm a little skeptical of the Chickens after the past 2 weeks, but they are projected nearly 120 points going into this week. The Sniffers will have Tom Brady in at quarterback. Will Watson is on bye, who is the 6th-ranked quarterback so far of the year based on our league's points. And this team is a pretty solid team as well with the Dog Sniffers. Definitely a toss-up here in my expert opinion. In game number 3, we have the Google Team Names versus Worse Than Trash. Very winnable game for Worse Than Trash this week as Kyler Murray is on bye, and the names will be starting Teddy Bridgewater, the former WTT player. Additionally, top wide receiver Will Fuller for this team is on bye. This could be the game that gets Tony to his 5th win as the names are at their potential weakest for the season. Anyone's guess, but you all know I'm a big names fan. In game number 4, we have the Gruesome Grinders versus Glass Bones and Paper Skin. Lucas and his squad obviously having a tough year due to injuries, but Drew is having a tough year due to his schedule so far, averaging 135 points against per week. You would think looking at these rosters, it should be a slam dunk for the Grinders, just based on who he's playing. But due to the fact that Drew clearly must have spilled a massive pile of salt, walked under a ladder to clean it up as a black cat walked by, he's just been unlucky. Plus, Lucas is due for another 140-point week, and this could be it. New wide receiver Tyler Lockett will make his Grinders debut, and new quarterback Tua will make his Glass Bones debut in week 7. Definitely still a toss-up as both of these teams, as of filming, are currently tied at 0 points. Now, let's get on over to the Pong Stars Game of the Week. In the Pawn Stars Game of the Week this week, we have the Battle of the Jays as Josh and John face off for the first time this year. I personally think that this may be a preview of that championship game. But let's get into it. Russell Wilson is now the quarterback of this stacked Plopstis team. Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders are back in the lineup. Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, and Robbie Anderson in at wide receiver. Now, Allen Robinson might not play, but don't worry, there's plenty of depth at this position. And Darren Waller is in at tight end, number 3 tight end on the year. This is a superstar team, but don't count out NTL. No one should ever bet against Lamar Jackson, especially with Zeke and James Robinson still in the squad. But wait, Robinson's on bye. Oh, so Todd Gurley just gets to be the back now. Got it. A.J. Brown, Scotty Miller, Deontay Johnson in at wide receiver. And definitely don't count out that strong Buffalo defense. This, like I said, will be a preview match. For sure, these two should meet in the playoffs and potentially even that championship game. Now, let's head on over to the Pong Stars Pick'em. Welcome to this week's episode of the Pong Stars Pick'em. We have 5 of the 6 of us here. Thomas was unable to make it this evening, but don't worry, his picks will be announced at the bottom with everybody else's. So let's move into game number 1, where we have Zack versus Noel, the Gluten Freaks versus Randy's Donuts. It's going to be bombastic matchup. But I will go first, and I am taking Noel. Easy GG. Week 8 was going to be going into the season. I was like, I'll lose week 8, but that's fine. And that is this week. This happens to be against Noel. Let's go to Noel.
Yeah, I'm picking myself with the news that McCaffrey wasn't wearing a red practice jersey today. Hoping that he plays on Thursday night against a pretty bad Falcons defense. So,
all right, Sam, we'll go down to you then.
I have got Randy's Donuts.
Okay, and then over to Drew.
By
Another
narrowly.
Big. All right.
Huge.
Huge.
Drew, over to you.
I've got the Randy's Donuts here. I will say, though, it'd be hilarious if it's a pitch count type of deal for McCaffrey and Noel has to decide between Davis and McCaffrey what guy to play. Because
that's what I'm expecting.
I feel like that's very likely what
I just
play them both, bench Kamara. That's a great idea.
That is a great idea. Yeah.
All right.
Even though McCaffrey's the top fantasy scorer, just bench him.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
I'm going to take Noel as well. I believe Zack called this bye week hell for himself, and
it is.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a tough week for Zack. So, but Noel's team, is good enough to beat anyone right now. Getting McCaffrey back, so taking Noel.
Yeah.
Zack is starting Corey Davis on purpose.
Corey Davis is a good flex player. He is not a winning player, but he's a good flex player. He's not going to do it, but that's fine.
Watch him get like 20 points next week.
I would, you know what? I'm calling it now. If Corey Davis gets more than 15 points, I'm winning this week.
Yeah, because it's against me. You're going to get like 180.
I can't wait.
Oh, that's true. That happens to not you, Noel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good call. All right, let's go over then to game number 2 where we have Brennan and the Spring Chickens versus Thomas and the Dog Sniffers. Noel, we'll start with you.
I got the Spring Chickens against the Dog Sniffers this week.
All right, and Samuel, who you got?
I have got Brennan Swan and the Spring Chickens. I just can't see Thomas pulling this one out this week.
Okay, let's not make the same mistake last
with your
week.
language.
Seriously,
Samuel.
Sam. Narrowly. Come on.
Narrowly, Sam. All right, Drew, over to you.
I got the Spring Chickens scoring more than 58 points this week and winning.
All right, John Stevens, up to you.
Yep, I think the Spring Chickens are going to get back on track this week against the Dog Sniffers.
I'm going to go against the grain. I'm choosing Thomas and the Dog Sniffers against Brennan. 2 sub-60 score weeks and Chris Carson getting injured. Not going to be a good week for the Chickens. Probably better than 60. Probably better than 57 point whatever he got last week, but still probably not going to be a win in my opinion. So let's move on to matchup number 3 then, where we have Sam and the Google team names up against the Tony Townsend and Worse Than Trash. And we will start with Sam Olson himself.
Well, I am still atop the rankings in Sleeper. Probably not going to be in the poll position with everybody in their rankings, but Sleeper still has me number 1, so I'm going to roll with the number 1 team in the land, the Google team names.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to put in a flashback scene here of Zack boasting about his team being number 1 and 3 and whatever, and then where I am now and where I will be probably. And
you actually should put a clip of yourself saying that.
Play this clip now. Thank you.
Let's start with matchup number 1, which is the Gluten Freaks versus Not Trading Lamar. Zack versus Josh, a budding rivalry between 2 really great teams, high-powered offenses. The number 1 ranked team in the Gluten Freaks versus a lesser ranked team in Not Trading Lamar. Gluten Freaks are finally ranked number 1 again.
Okay, we said less than 25 minutes. Wrap it up.
And feeling real good versus Not Trading Lamar, who lost last week. So,
all right, and you just heard that. So now let's. Sam's going to regret saying that. We're going to keep this on file. Drew, over to you.
I am sticking with the Google team names. I think Sam, his team's underrated. He's going to take a W this week.
John, up to you then.
I'd say in a shocker, I am taking Tony Townsend this week, mainly just because I want Sam to lose.
Is that your lock?
It's not my lock. It's just because I really don't want Sam to win.
Come on, you got to lock that in.
Hey,
Jordan.
I
Lock that
locked
in.
Tony before.
Yeah. It did work. It did work actually.
I know.
You're gonna roll the dice, John. You got to go all in. Put them all on the table.
No. All right. I'm going to take Sam in the names. You know I'm a big Google names guy. Can't pick against these guys.
Fairweather fan. Picked against them a couple weeks ago.
I did, and they lost, and I regretted it immensely.
Wait, if they lost,
won.
No, I won.
I lost.
Yeah.
Yes. Whatever. All right. Noel, over to you.
I got the Google team names as well. He's playing worse than trash, and that's all you need to know.
Perfect. All right. Let's go then over to Drew versus Lucas. We got the Gruesome Grinders versus Glassbones and Paper Thin. And we will begin with Drew Mahowald.
But no offense to Lucas, if freaking Lucas scores 135 points on me, like everybody else is averaging, it'll be time to throw in the towel. I'm taking my team, but damn it, I need to be. I got to get something to go my way here coming up.
Hey, he's only scored more than like 110 once.
That's accurate.
Knock on wood.
He's due for one.
Knock on wood.
He's been winding up just for this week. All right, John, who do you got in Drew v. Lucas?
I'm taking Drew, and in honor of his new player this week, I'm going to lock it.
Okay.
And that is why I refused to lock Tony, because I had to say that. It was too good of a lie.
Damn.
Well done.
All right, I'm also locking Drew. Drew lock. That's another name-based pun, right? That counts.
That's not as good.
Not as good.
That's actually worse. That's
it is
really bad.
Significantly bad.
That's super bad.
Yeah, who would ever say that?
I'm still picking you. Well, hopefully you can win over Lucas. I agree. If you can't, time to throw in the towel. I'm sure Lucas will do a super cut of us saying that if he wins, post it for the Twitter. So, Noel, over to you.
With everything that just happened, I don't really want to pick Drew. But unfortunately, the team he's playing makes me pick the Gruesome Grinders this week. So, and that is my lock as well. Never just go through.
Right, Sam, who do you got?
Don't do it, Sam.
Like the great Denver quarterback Drew Lock, I am going to pick Drew, the Gruesome Grinders, and they are my lock this week.
This is so bad, guys.
God.
So bad. I desperately need to win this week.
Lock it up.
All right. I'll just say it, Drew, so it's on your mind too. Thomas is also picking you, and that's a full sweep for Drew. You're guaranteed a win.
Oh dear.
With 2
locks.
This is great.
3 locks. 4 locks. You had 4 locks.
4 locks?
4 locks.
John, I love Drew Lock, man.
Sam, and
Drew Lock.
All right, now
Drew's
let's go over to our Pong Stars. Let's go over to our Pong Stars game of the week here. We have the J battle of John versus Josh. The Rat Plapstas versus Not Trading Lamar. And John, we will begin with you.
Well, you already know I have to take the Rat Plapstas.
Wow.
Josh, I love Josh. You know, it's going to be a tough week. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a grind, but I think I'm going to put up like 200 points this week. So I'm going to win it.
Okay. Calm down, John. Calm down. I like your team, but calm down.
I am also picking the Rat Plapstas. This is going to be, I'm going to be on record right now. This will be the last game that Josh loses this season. Noel Teigen, you are now up.
Wow, that is very bold. Hang on, I gotta look at these
I can't wait for like next week for Josh to have lost twice, and then you're just.
I don't get.
There's a clip of this back on Twiter.
I don't get penalized. Josh, you can make a super cut of me saying that and release it, or whoever can.
Just freezing cold takes.
No, you're up.
Yeah, I want to say the Rat Plapstas this week because the Packers are playing the Vikings, and The Rock Plopsters have Devontae and Aaron Jones, and as much as I like
And
the Vikings,
Rodgers.
hate the Packers, we all have seen how the season has been going, and so the Packers are probably going to score a lot of points this week. So I got the Rock Plopsters.
All right, Sam, who do you got in this J battle?
I have got the Rock Plopsters. I'm still getting the whole voice thing back, but no, I think John's team is the one to do it, and as everyone likes, it's going to be narrowly the Rock Plopsters.
Big.
All right, Drew, round us off here. Who do we got?
I've got the Lock Plopsters.
Oh,
That's my lock this week. I had to come up with something there.
You did great.
I guess affection, is that the right? That's probably not the right word. My
Infatuation.
my infatuation with John's
Envy.
team is well documented, and
That
I
is
think
cute.
Mr. Polingo will struggle at receiver with Chris Godwin's injury status, and the fact that Todd Gurley and his 97-year-old knee is playing Thursday night.
97.
Give me the Lock Plopsters.
And that is also going to be Thomas's lock. So that's actually 3 sweeps this week, and 1 should have been sweep, in my opinion, if John wasn't spike picking Tony over Sam. So lots of matchups that have a lot of broad consensus this week, and it should be a good one. We do have a bonus question for everybody today. I'll start since I came up with it, and it is, will Tyreek Hill score more than 20 fantasy points for the first time this week? And I'm going to say no. Noel, over to you.
Who do the Chiefs play?
Jets.
Yep, the Jets.
Yes.
All right, Noel says yes. Sam?
Is it at home or away?
Oh my God.
Doesn't
Don't ask
matter.
questions.
There's no
Answer
question.
the question.
It's no. I'm still going to say no either way. I just wanted to ask a question like Noel did.
I'm down. Drew?
I'm gonna say yes, just because
Ooh.
he's my receiver. That's it.
Oh, weird. All right, John?
I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say Mecole Hardman's the guy. He's the guy this week.
Pick him up.
Nah,
Do it. Yeah, do it, coward.
nah,
Did Mike Evans get over 5 targets last week?
no.
In our bonus question.
He had 2.
Two
Ah, shit.
targets.
He didn't have any.
Did say
like,
yes
the
to that.
fourth quarter.
But that's our bonus question for this week. We'll get Thomas's recorded somewhere, but he's not here, so sad. Coming up next here, we got the leaderboard. 2 teams under 20 points and 4 teams above 20 points going into week 8. But
I'm below, right?
John is below and Thomas is below.
Who's leading?
Should I just read them all? That's
Yeah.
all right.
I think that's the
I was
best
just
way to
gonna
do
put
it.
them up at the end for a little.
Read them loud, read them proud.
We got number 1 coming in with 23 points. Sam Olson leading
Narrowly.
both narrowly leading both the regular.
Every time Sam says narrowly, he should lose half a point.
I only
So
said
this
it
is
once
actually
today.
this is continuing the tradition of if you win are in first place in regular play, you're also first in Pawn Stars pick 'em play like Noel did last year. So Sam is in first at 23, 22 points goes to Drew Mahowald in second place, 21 points Noel Tigan, 20 points Zack Eichten, 19 points John Stevens, and 18 points for Thomas Strawn. Very strange that there is no ties there at all. That's very odd.
That is kind of crazy.
Just noticed that, but it's coming up now. You can see how the points break down. A couple zeros on a couple boards. Really, really tough to see. But thanks for playing, boys, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks, Pick'em players. Appreciate all of your input all the time. Oh, and also special thanks to our guest commissioner, Commissioner Andrew Smeed of the Rosemont Alumni Fantasy Football League. And that's all we have for this week on the Rathole. I'm your host, Commissioner Zack Eichten. And remember to vote. Seriously, though, remember to vote. Oh, my God, the election's next week.